Now, did you ever did you ever cover pumpkin
Yeah.
chucking? Because I heard that from the Salisbury constituents that that's a big hoedown or hootenanny, depending upon where you're from.
That is the hootiness of hootenannies. And I was at the last Pumpkin Chunkin', the one where the lady got like violently maimed by an exploding air cannon.
Wait, whoa,
Yeah,
whoa, whoa, whoa!
I didn't. It's no longer a thing, right? Pumpkin chunkin is not,
correct. Pumpkin Chunkin' is
because
officially
I
no
think
more.
they killed a lady.
And that's the last one I was at.
Oh. Wait, so
Wait, so what
I'm,
happened?
I'm aware of the event. I did not know that it ceased to exist. I just assumed it may have been. But if you were to ask me, I would assume it's one of those things that it was just too much fun, like every other thing that happens where there's too much fun, too much boozing, too many drugs, too many titties. That like, well, not doing it anymore. But
Pumpkin.
someone lost a life.
Yeah.
Pumpkin Chunkin' is the next Tiger King docuseries that has not been made yet. Pumpkin Chunkin' started out with a bunch of rednecks who decided they were going to put together some of those old-fashioned medieval trebuchets in their backyard and see how far they could fling them. And it's slower, lower, Sussex County, Delaware, and so somebody had a big old hunk and chunk of land, and they started doing this thing, and then people started showing up, and they're like, "Hey, fuck yeah, we can have ourselves a nice rootin' tootin' party out here." And then it got too big for that piece of land, so they started renting out the fairgrounds in is it in Harrington? Yeah, in Harrington. And then people were like, "Well, fuck these trebuchets. I bet I can get me about 20,000 pounds of pressure in this old school bus I made airtight. Let's just strap a valve on it, put a 50-foot cannon on there, shove a pumpkin in, see how far she goes."
Just fucking make a fucking potato cannon.
Yeah.
And
For pumpkins.
Every year it came down to something like, "Hey man, don't your cousin work at NASA? Get his ass out of here. Should him design something."
so the last Pumpkin Chunkin', there was a team from Japan there. The Discovery Channel was there doing all their side little shoots, getting interviews and stuff, because Mythbusters was coming in, and Jamie's the walrus guy, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Jamie and Adam, they weren't there. They had their surrogates out there doing all the interviews, and then they were going to, I guess, attach their faces and voices in at a later date. And that day, one of the cannons was a little over pressurized, and a piece of metal, it exploded, and a piece of metal flew off, hit some chick in the head, and that pretty much ended everything.
Wes's face on the abrupt turn. Everything was just so fun until the Discovery Channel was there. Fucking pumpkins were being chunked.
Was, man. I mean, it's like a good time until someone. I hate to kid about it, but it's a good time until someone, some jackass who isn't an engineer straps on, what'd you call it, a 200-pound pressurized
school bus.
Basically, just a fucking crock pot. Retrofitted to fucking.
No, these things were huge, man. I would Google some images of Pumpkin Chunkin' cannons, and these things. Okay, like the Big Bertha gun that they have on display. I can't remember where it is, but it was like that World War II train car with
the bunker buster. There's one they smashed like old Belgian forts from the. That were, they just blasted into them. Yeah, it was ridiculous. They were exactly as they were designed, to smash giant heaps of concrete.
And so that is roughly the size of the Pumpkin Chunkin' world record holders, which, by the way, would shoot a pumpkin a mile.
God, can you imagine being on the other end waiting? Like, all right, we got to see where this pumpkin hits. Mark it off.
The guys, this is one of those things where, like, a good thing gone bad. The people that would come to Pumpkin Chunkin' would raise their own pumpkins that would basically, because you know how you open up a pumpkin and it's all gooey and it's got the seeds inside. They would genetically modify their pumpkins so they were pretty much solid all the way through.
Fleshy joints, yeah.
So that they could launch these fuckers a mile.
That's right.
Pressure at the genetically modified pumpkins and a good waste of ingenuity to launch that fucker a mile. Now, were there any successful, because I've seen some on different things, not necessarily because I'd never never attended one of these. I've seen videos, but some of like the big catapult style ones where it kind of like flips it over 180 and
yeah, those are trebuchet joints.
yeah.
those
I
are
mean,
the
are
trebuchets.
those just medieval compared to the goddamn, futuristic shit that you were seeing?
Yeah, it's funny that those were the things that kicked off pumpkin chunkin'. Like that was the heritage of pumpkin chunkin', and it was like when you go to the fair and then they've got the different games that you can play, and those ended up being like the little squirt gun, pop the balloon kind of like, oh, look at that, how cute are those things? And people would stare at them for about 30 seconds and watch one go and be like, oh, okay, and then they just wipe the fucking drool off their chin and then walk over to the Big Bertha machines, and you couldn't even see the pumpkins leave. You just saw a big puff of air, and then a bunch of people go, woo, and shot a Patron.
God
Oh,
damn.
so yeah, so let's recap. What became of you that day?
Well, that day I was fine. We hated it. It was it's supposed to be this big. It's basically like the Preakness of Southern Delaware, and because I was working, I was basically, they didn't need us anymore to promote the thing because it was so big. So we'd get there and we'd have this big radio station van, and they'd be like, yeah, you could just park it in the field over there. And literally you would just drive it into the middle of a freshly plowed cornfield with the stalks like sticking up about a foot out of the ground. And we would just stand in the wind and like shield each other just enough to be able to do like the live broadcast and throw it back to the station and then freeze our asses off. We couldn't really drink because we had to we were working. And then, we would just kind of, laugh at all the fodder that was to be presented around us.
So it didn't even cease to exist because of too much of a good time. Like I would have guessed, like Canal Day in Chesapeake City ceased to exist because too many titties, too many booze, too many drunks, doing God knows what in the water, peeing, pooping, fornicating, shindig, too much of a good time. Actually, that was a bit of an insurance heist. I don't know if you're aware of that. They worked the system.
Well, that is kind of where it was headed anyway, because like the year before, like the guy who ran it was like, we ain't doing it no more. They want to charge me too many fees for insurance and this and that and this. And then a bunch of people raised a bunch of money to be able to help him like pay for the insurance. And then that year, the year they saved Pumpkin Chunkin', the pumpkin chunker explodes and kills a lady. So like it's so funny because the exact reason the government wanted to shut it down is the exact reason that it ended.
Maybe that's I don't know what to say. I mean, that God rest the soul of the woman who passed away. That's tragic. I can't imagine if I was a family member, I would have moving people back 50 yards saved a life, or how close were these people?
This thing was launching a pumpkin a standard mile.
Yeah.
So I don't think it mattered exactly where you put the people when the pressurized school bus exploded. It's your guess as good as anybody else's where that little chunk of metal is going to land. I mean, it's like you're in outer space. A grain of sand hits you, you're done. So, I mean, it didn't really matter where you were. If it hit you, you're not making it out alive.
Pressurized school bus.
Could you engineer such a thing, Alan?
I mean, I would, but it seems risky. I'd go trebuchet style. I just prefer it. It's classier, I think.
I agree.
When you get down to it, like it's like air cannon's like the steroid era of pumpkin chunkin'. Like, meh, give me the good old trebuchet. You know what I mean? I want guys hitting fucking 12 dingers and winning home run titles.
I would say out of the 1,000 people walking around the campground, like maybe 50 of them are on the cannons, so they care about the pumpkins, and then about 30 other people gave a shit about the pumpkins. Everybody else just wanted to use their fair tickets for the rock wall, drink as many Budweisers as they could, and just have a fun time just slopping it up in a field somewhere.
Right.
They didn't need the pumpkin chunkers anymore, so they could have just done the trebuchets and no one would have died.
Yeah, they got the shit suit out of them. That's why they stopped.